Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2023 State of the Region Address, recorded here at Niagara Falls Convention Center, presented in partnership with Penn Financial Credit Union. It is beautiful to look around the room and seeing so many of you connecting and coming together again for events like this one. So thank you for being here. We deeply appreciate it. And if I could ask you for a round of applause for the Ridley College Jazz Band that was playing in the lobby. Thank you very much to all the players. My name is Mishka Balsam, and I'm with the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. Let us acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and Indigenous people, both in shaping and strengthening this region in particular, and our province and country as a whole. Today is brought to you in partnership with the Niagara Association of Realtors, the Niagara Construction Association, the Niagara Home Builders Association, the Niagara Industrial Association, and the Chambers of Commerce for Grimsby and District, Lincoln, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. And here is a message from the Niagara Association of Realtors, followed by one from the Niagara Industrial Association.
Hey. I can't believe we get to look at this every day.
I know. It's peaceful. Happy retirement, baby.
Thanks. Hey, what do you think those guys are up to?
Excuse me? Hi, what are you doing there?
Good morning. We'll be out of your hair shortly. We just need to take some measurements. For the new subdivision.
What?
Hey, is it okay if we move this bird bath? It's the perfect place for the porta potty.
You mean this view is...
Gone. Like my dreams.
Niagara Realtors know Niagara development. Use a local Niagara Realtor.
My name is Jordan Sherlock. I'm chair of the Niagara Industrial Association and president of a local manufacturer called North America Traffic. The Niagara Industrial Association is the voice and advocate for the industrial sector in Niagara. We help build solutions to the collective challenges and goals of our members with a mandate to preserve and develop industry in the Niagara region. We add value to our members through advocating on behalf of industry by engaging with governing bodies, policymakers, and institutions, facilitating networking opportunities that promote strategic connections amongst industry peers, and by being a resource that companies can rely on for education and training, business development, and funding opportunities. Connect with us and find out how you can become an NIA member today.
I just wanted to say that the GNCC is in favor of more houses in Niagara. Subdivisions, that is. To open today's address, please join me in welcoming the Strong Water Singers, a collective of Indigenous and non-Indigenous women from across the Niagara region. Created in 2015 and housed at the Fort Erie Native Friendship Center, this community-based initiative uses drumming and singing as a means of achieving wellness, strength, and unity, which we all need. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we are the Strong Water Singers. We come together as just moms getting together in 2015. We've grown to over 70 women and girls. And I just wanted to mention that we have 3 generations of girls and women sometimes gathered together and singing together for different events or just to feed our spirits, right? So I just wanted to start out with a small prayer in my language, and then we will begin to sing. So, Nyawa goa sangwa indiso, sangwa wiganyohanyo, ne deati nuerado, ne ongoi soa, eto no yuduhage, ne ngwatni gura.
We are going to sing Snake Medicine, and the song, it goes faster and slower as it goes, and that's to honor that snake along its journey. And this song is to remind us that we are not supposed to be afraid of snakes, that they come across our path and there's a role and there's a reason for that. And it's actually guiding us towards that good medicine and away from that medicine that's just not meant for us right now or maybe today. So we sing this song to just honor that path, bring all that good medicine along on our way, and to open up this event. So Nyawa, miigwech.
Wow. It's amazing. Thank you so very much. And now, may I ask you to rise for the singing of a Canada performed by Gioia Bonifacio Progetto with Ridley College.
Oh, Canada, our home on native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, our true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, stand on God for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on God for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on God for thee.
Today's entertainment was brought to us by Electra, serving approximately 1 million homes in 17 communities and shaping the future of energy as we know it.
The industry is changing, and we must change with it. That's what's behind our utility growth strategy, and it's why we're always looking for new opportunities. Our growth will enable us to discover new possibilities not only for our customers, but also for our communities.
In 2017, we started out as a new company, formed through a merger of PowerStream, EnerSource and Horizon Utilities, and later through the acquisition of Hydro One Brampton and additional merger with Guelph Hydro. It was a merger of equals. We now deliver electricity to more than 1.1 million residential and business customers in 17 communities within the Greater Toronto and Golden Horseshoe area. That makes us the largest municipally owned distribution company based on customer count in Canada. We've worked hard to deliver on our commitment to growing our business. This includes making strategic acquisitions that boost our competitive portfolio in utility operations and at the edge of the grid, launching significant new programs in support of our focus on best-in-class customer experience, and investing generously in local charities and nonprofit organizations.
The world of energy is changing, and so are we. From the start, we had a sense that with the right scale, anything is possible. And today, our engineers, our customer service teams, our sustainability experts, all of us are in the process of bringing those possibilities to life.
We're Electra, and we're discovering the possibilities.
My thanks to Electra. And on that note of possibilities, we have come here together to actually speak about the possibilities that Niagara holds. But we can't do any of it in isolation. And it is my honor to acknowledge that we have been joined today by a number of elected officials. With us today, we have MP Chris Biddle. We have the Mayor for Port Colborne, Bill Steele, the Mayor for Welland, Frank Campion, the Lord Mayor for Niagara-on-the-Lake, Gary Zalepa, Mayor for Grimsby, Jeff Jordan, the Mayor for Niagara Falls, Jim Diodati, the Mayor for Pelham, Marvin Junkin, the Mayor for St. Catharines, Matt Sisko, Mayor for Lincoln, Sandra Easton, and Thorold, Terry Uglini, and for the Mayor for Fort Erie, Wayne Wedderkopp. In addition to that, we have close to 30 councillors, I think, that are with us today, as well as the person of the hour, our Regional Chair, Jim Bradley. Thank you for all that you do. It's also our honor to recognize non-elected leaders that are shaping our community. Today, we have the Chief of Police, Brian McCulloch, who's been joined by the Deputy Chief of Police, Bill Fordy, as well as Brett Flynn. We have the President of Niagara College, Sean Kennedy, with us, as well as the Provost and Vice President of Academic for Brock University, Dr. Lynn Wells. Thank you so very much for being with us and for shaping our region. We also deeply appreciate the organizations and businesses that make actually gathering and a dialogue as this one happen today. Our appreciation goes to our title sponsor, Penn Financial Credit Union, Electra, Ridley College, Crown, Niagara College, YMCA of Niagara, Soundbox Productions, Walker Industries, Niagara Falls Convention Center, BCM Insurance Company, Newstock 610 CKTB, 105.7 Move, UTV, and Symmetric. To all of you, hooray for being by our side. And for all the people who might not be here today but would like to know about it, our hashtag for today's event is State of Niagara. So please use it a lot, frequently, at any time of the day. For today, just so you're aware, it is being recorded by UTV and it will be shown in the upcoming days, and we'll release that schedule shortly. And just to give you an overview of today's format, we have 4 distinct aspects to today. We're starting out with the handing out of the Niagara Impact Awards, followed by lunch, which I know you're all waiting for, but there's salad there for now. The chair's keynote address, and then a fireside chat between Chair Jim Bradley and our morning host, Tim Dennis with 610 CKTB. So that's the format of today. And to start out, I would like to ask Jane Chipman, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Penn Financial, to join me. He is a CFA charter holder and has worked in financial services for over 19 years. Shane leads the Penn Financial delivery team with a focus on relationship building and excellent execution. And as a lifelong Niagara resident, Shane gives back to the community by volunteering on the Hotel du Sheva Foundation Board of Directors. And here's a message from Penn Financial.
Are you feeling deflated by inflation?
Yep.
It's true. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But that doesn't mean you have to be defenseless against it. Creating a financial plan and sticking to it is a surefire way to make sure inflation doesn't take control of your life. Come into Penn Financial and talk to one of our advisors. It's free, and it will save you stress and money. How long were you dancing for?
Since March 2020.
Woof.
On behalf of Penn Financial, it is our sincere pleasure to sponsor this year's State of the Region Address. I would first like to thank the chambers and business associations from Niagara for this important and informative event. They offer exceptional value to members and continue to play an integral role in the research, support, growth, and development of the communities across the Niagara region. As we recover from the impacts of the last 3 years, our collective commitment to supporting our local communities and residents is critical. At Penn Financial, we continue to believe that the prosperity of our members and our local Niagara community go hand in hand. We are proud of our truly local commitment to our community, and we hope we inspire you as well. It is now my sincere pleasure to introduce Regional Chair Jim Bradley. Jim Bradley has served as Chair of the Niagara Region since December 2018. Previously, Chair Bradley served as a St. Catharines City Councillor from 1970 to 1977, and for 41 years, he was a member of Provincial Parliament for St. Catharines from 1977 to 2018. During this time, Chair Bradley held numerous senior cabinet roles, including Provincial Minister of Environment, Transportation, Municipal Affairs and Housing, Tourism and Recreation, and Community Safety and Correctional Services. Since being elected in 2018, Chair Bradley has provided strong leadership on many initiatives that have led to the betterment of the Niagara region. In collaboration with his colleagues on Regional Council, some of these accomplishments include passing a policy to encourage green bin use, resulting in a 24% increase in organics diverted from landfills. Moving to create a single enhanced public transit provider for the entire region. Ensuring Niagara is doing its part in its battle with climate change. Championing initiatives that resulted in over $20 million being invested in affordable housing. Working to expand high-speed internet access in rural parts of Niagara. Building a more welcoming community by joining UNESCO's Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities and passing the region's first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan. and being a tireless advocate for Niagara at Queen's Park and in Ottawa, working hard to ensure the region has a voice at the table. Before entering politics, Chair Bradley was a teacher with the Lincoln County Board of Education. As an involved community member, Chair Bradley has contributed to Niagara as a hockey and baseball coach, manager and referee, and as a longtime member of the Grantham Optimist Club. Please join me in welcoming Regional Chair Jim Bradley to present the Impact Awards.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. And may I say from the beginning that the accomplishments that you saw are listed today are really the accomplishments of the entire Regional Council and not of the particular chair. I had the privilege of being chair during that period of time, but I assure you that all members of council and members of staff were responsible for the initiatives that you have had described to you today. Now, today I'm privileged to have the opportunity to announce the names of the winners of the 2023 Niagara Impact Awards. This Impact Award ceremony was created to recognize those individuals, nonprofit organizations, and private sector businesses who've gone above and beyond to improve the quality of life for those in our community. These individuals and organizations make a meaningful, positive impact across Niagara, and they do so without any expectation of thanks and recognition. These awards aim to recognize those who contribute to making Niagara one of the best places in which to live in all of Canada. I was pleased to see that over 140 quality nominations were submitted on behalf of residents, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. I was moved by the stories of sacrifice, generosity, and innovation that were submitted by their friends, families, clients, and customers of the nominees. We originally had planned to name only 4 award winners, but after careful review of the submissions, we made the decision to present 6 Impact Awards today. Refining this list was a challenge as there were so many deserving nominees. I want to congratulate all of the nominees, all who continue to make a positive impact across Niagara. These nominees and winners should be proud of what they have done for our region and beyond the borders of this region. While I cannot describe all that these nominees have done, I'm pleased to announce the following winners. And I think most of them are here today. Don't know if all of them were able to make it, but nevertheless, they should be recognized today. This year's Business Category Award winner has cultivated an exceptional and impressive workplace culture focused upon volunteerism and community involvement. General Motors of St. Catharines, through both its employee-led fundraising and corporate giving programs, generously contributed more than $258,000 to worthwhile organizations in Niagara during 2022. These donations, combined with employee volunteer initiatives, help ensure that a large number of local nonprofit organizations were able to deliver important services to help some of Niagara's most vulnerable residents. I would like now to call upon Samantha Woodless from General Motors, St. Catharines, to come forward and accept the 2023 Niagara Impact Award for Business. In the Community Nonprofit category, I'm pleased to announce that this year's Niagara Impact Award recipient is Tomorrow's Voices Children's Choir. Tomorrow's Voices is a barrier-free, nonprofit choir for children who love to sing, with a motto of kids should be heard. Tomorrow's Voices give children ages 8 to 18 from underserved communities the opportunity to expand their musical knowledge, sing their hearts out, and perform on stage without requiring them to audition or pay a fee to participate. Established in St. Catharines in 2017, Tomorrow's Voices is now hosting barrier-free choirs in Hamilton, Toronto, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I'm pleased to invite Todd Green, Executive Director and founder of Tomorrow's Voices, to come forward to accept the 2023 Community Nonprofit Niagara Impact Award. Todd. Moving on to the individual awards, there are 2 awards being presented for 2023. The winner of this year's Youth Award is Niagara Falls resident and St. Paul Catholic High School student MACKENZIE AGRETTO, who was nominated by one of her teachers for her dedicated role as an advocate for inclusivity. In addition to regularly promoting awareness and support for countless worthwhile causes, including World Down Syndrome Day and Autism Ontario, she also spearheaded a major initiative for special education students within the Niagara Catholic District School Board. MACKENZIE organized a formal prom for special education students within all 8 of the high schools in the NCDSB. She took the initiative to plan and organize an event that welcomes students with special needs and allows them to experience a special occasion that many would not necessarily have the opportunity to attend. Please join me in congratulating MACKENZIE as she makes her way to accept the 2023 Niagara Impact Youth Award. The second individual award is for St. Catharines resident JANICE Ford Spencer, who received more than 20 nominations for her work in giving back to our community. During her previous career as a journalist, Janice wrote an article about seniors living in long-term care homes. Through her research, she was shocked to learn how lonely and isolated many seniors find themselves, especially during the holiday season. It was this revelation that pushed Janice to create Stockings of Love, a nonprofit volunteer initiative that makes sure that seniors living alone or in long-term care homes never feel forgotten at Christmas time. Together with her team of volunteer elves, Janice managed to collect enough donated items to stuff and deliver holiday stockings to thousands of local seniors over the past 5 years. In fact, in December of 2022, she was able to exceed her goal of distributing 2,000 stockings to St. Catharines and area seniors. As she makes her way up to accept this award, please join me in acknowledging Janice Ford Spencer as a recipient of the 2023 Niagara Impact Individual Award. Thank you, Janice. This year's Community Leader Award is being presented to Dr. Yusuf Hajimad, CEO and founder of Norgen Biotech Corp. In Thorold. For nearly 25 years, Dr. Hajimad has championed the Niagara region as an ideal location for biotechnology and health sciences and those companies that produce those. And he has championed them to call Niagara the home. In February of 2022, Yusuf Hajimad Family Foundation made a significant donation of $5 million to Brock University to help fund the creation of a new integrated engineering department, making Brock one of only 3 universities in Canada to offer an integrated engineering program. This donation also included a dedicated scholarship for women in STEM, which encourages young females to study science, technology, engineering, and math. I want to thank Dr. Hajimad for his commitment to the Niagara region and look forward to the continued success of both Norgen Biotech and the newly integrated engineering department at Brock University. Please join me in congratulating Yusuf as he makes his way up to accept the 2023 Community Leader Niagara Impact Award. Very deserving individual. T. Roy Adams was an eminent Niagaran and former regional councillor who was well known throughout the region, Canada, and abroad for his service to God, his country, and his fellow citizens. Roy believed that every person matters and had a sincere interest in people, particularly those less fortunate, whether because of disability or misfortune. He was respected for his service and dedication to the people of St. Catharines, Niagara region, and indeed the country. And since 2003, Niagara region initiated a memorial award in his name to honor a resident of Niagara who best exemplifies Roy's values and dedication to community service, a person who sees volunteerism as an integral part of their life. This year, I'm pleased to announce that the 2023 recipient of the T. Roy Adams Humanitarian Award is Carrie Benvenuti of Port Colborne. Carrie is being Carrie is being recognized today for her years of commitment and dedication to addressing food insecurity in communities right across Niagara. She is the founder of No One Goes Hungry, a grassroots community-based organization which she started in 2017 while volunteering with the Salvation Army's mobile outreach truck, a service that prepares and distributes meals to some of Niagara's most vulnerable citizens. Carrie's unique ability to rally volunteers to help prepare large batch, high-quality meals has quickly helped No One Goes Hungry expand its reach to several communities right across Niagara. To date, Carrie and her crew have prepared and distributed more than, get this, 150,000 meals, and they show no signs of slowing down at any time soon. Whether it's established in-school programs that help feed 100 high school students every day, or creating the first ever in-school community pantry that allows students to shop at school and bring food home to their families, Carrie and her team continue to find innovative ways to improve the lives of individuals who struggle with food insecurity. Through her actions over the past 5 years, Carrie Benvenuti has demonstrated her belief that every person matters, and she has shown a genuine interest in helping those less fortunate than herself. Please join me in welcoming Carrie Benvenuti to come forward to accept the 2023 T. Roy Adams Humanitarian of the Year Award, and I'd also like to call Port Colborne Mayor Bill Steele to help me make this presentation. Come on up, Bill. Stand, you can stand between the mayor and the chair in this case.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Over this. All right. Hey, how you doing? Thanks very much, and great job. Keep it up. That concludes the Niagara Impact Awards presentation and the T. Roy Adams Award presentation. I must say I'm very pleased that this is part of the dinner taking place today, part of the presentation on behalf of the region. These are people who have genuinely made a profound and positive impact on Niagara, and while they don't seek recognition, they certainly deserve it, and your applause has indicated your approval of that. Thank you very much.
There ever is a day that goes by that I'm not in awe of the talent that Niagara holds. So it's a privilege to be here and to be in this room. This room, as big as it seems to us, is only a fraction of the 300,000 square feet that the Niagara Falls Convention Center actually holds. And if you ever have a chance to look at all the events that are taking place here, it is actually incredible. And on that note, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce to you Noel Buckley, President and General Manager of Niagara Falls Convention Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mishka. I appreciate that shameless plug for the Convention Center. I know it's lunchtime, and I get that, and I am here to introduce lunch, but I'm just going to take a moment to give a couple of thanks. One, thank you to Mishka and the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the Regional Chair, the Regional Chair's Office in the region of Niagara for holding in-person events. We in this building, and I personally strongly believe that in-person events and business meetings are important to the social, cultural, professional, and economic fabric of a community, and we are glad to see everybody here in person. In the past 30 days, we've hosted Anheuser-Busch, we're hosting Boehringer, we've hosted The Brick. We will have in the building, being set up right now, 10,000 athletes and participants in the National Cheer Championships this weekend, consuming 10,000 rooms. So we are very, very proud of the role we play, and all of us play in business events. And I just would like to remind people that although we are known as perhaps the dominant leisure destination in all of Canada, the best leisure destinations in North America are the best business and meeting event destinations as well. And you need look no further than Las Vegas or San Francisco or New Orleans or New York City. Not only are they dominant leisure destinations, they're dominant meeting and special event destinations. My role here was to introduce lunch. I'm not going to pretend I could tell you in great detail about all that is in your lunch, but I will tell you one thing, and I had Chef prepare it for me. We firmly believe that the wine and culinary environment within which we operate is incredibly important to the way we operate our business here at the Niagara Falls Convention Center. And the list I'm going to read now is not just because of today. It's indicative of virtually every single meal we do in this building. The bread is from St. Joseph's Bakery in St. Catharines. Salad greens from Vision Greens in Welland. Spec Niagara Food Specialties were involved in the dinner. Vinegars on the table and the salad dressings come from Niagara Vinegars in St. Catharines. Niagara Gold Cheese from Jordan was on your salad. Microgreens are from St. Catharines. The gelato is from here in Niagara Falls. Notable mentions to La Coco's, Niagara Falls, and Your Farmgate Butcher Shop in Ridgeway. This would be typical of a meal we serve. We do everything we can to promote local and serve local, and we think it's not only good for business, we think it's the best tasting produce and the best tasting products anywhere in Canada. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for being at the Niagara Falls Convention Center.
I think Noel Buckley's description of the food was amazing, but almost undersold. It was incredible lunch. Thank you. And I know it's still being served, but I also have to say how much I have enjoyed looking around the room and seeing so many of, actually all of us here, connecting with one another and really enjoying the company. So it's a great room, and thank you all for being here. On that note, we have one video message coming up right now.
We've all heard the F word, but what we really need to talk about is the W word, wealth. Gary, we don't need to censor wealth. How are we supposed to help people with the W word if you keep censoring me? Look, wealth isn't a bad word. That's it. Wealth is not a bad word. It just looks different to different people, depending on what your goals are. The important thing is deciding what your version of wealth looks like and sticking to a plan that will get you there. Our financial advisors can walk you through it. And the best part is, they don't work on commission. So it won't cost you a cent to tap into their of knowledge. Gary, if you censor wealth one more time, I will
Thank you to Penn Financial for bringing us together. And it's also my privilege right now to be joined by the Assistant Head of School, Co-Curriculars and Community Connections at Ridley College, Mr. Jay Treadway.
Greetings from Ridley College. My name is Ed Kidd, and I'm the headmaster of Ridley. And on behalf of our community, I'd like to thank the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce for hosting today's event, and also to congratulate Regional Chair Jim Bradley and all of you who have gathered today to reflect and to celebrate on your contributions to the region. Ridley College has been a proud member of the Niagara community for more than 133 years, and we are honored to sponsor this year's event, and also honored to be a member of the GNCC. Ridley College is an independent day and boarding school offering a truly global education for students in junior kindergarten through to grade 12. With over 250 staff and faculty, our mission is to help our students discover what it takes to lead a flourishing life, not just in our community, but in communities all over the world. Our entire Ridley community is guided by our school motto, Terrar Dum Prosum, which means, may I be consumed in service. This commitment to service and supporting charitable causes across the region is ingrained in the Ridley student experience. A few examples include student clubs supporting local charities such as Start Me Up Niagara or Jillian's Place, community crew, RAFT, the Niagara Children's Centre, and more direct actions like shoveling driveways or raking leaves for our local neighbourhood. We have entered an exciting new chapter in our history at Ridley College. This year, we enrolled our largest cohort of students to date, 764 students from across Canada and 55 countries around the world. Half of those students reside right here in Niagara. In many ways, Ridley is a gateway to the Niagara region for our families who travel here from all over the world. Each September, we welcome our 300 international families who get to experience the thriving culture and the sights and indeed the local businesses of the Niagara region. If you've driven by campus recently, you will have noticed that we are in the middle of a major construction project. Last year, we broke ground on a $50 million capital building project, the largest in our school's history. It is designed to enhance our learning and recreation facilities. We're building a new learning commons, a new creative commons, a new music center, a fitness facility, and a 5-court squash center. When they open in early 2024, these world-class facilities will not only transform the learning landscape for generations of young Ridleyans, but they will also serve the greater Niagara community. Amidst the construction project, we still have many spaces on campus for the Niagara community to experience. Our chapel, classroom spaces, theatre, gymnasium, arena, soccer fields, and more are available to the greater Niagara community. Our doors are open to you. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to share more about Ridley College with you today. We are deeply committed to serving our community and to doing our part to cultivate a flourishing Niagara region. We are honored to call Niagara home. Thank you and enjoy the event.
Thanks to Ridley College, and now Mr. J. Treadway.
Good afternoon, everyone, and on behalf of Headmaster Kidd, the entire Ridley family, and the growing Niagara region, it's now my pleasure to welcome back to the stage our Regional Chair and newest member of the Kevin Kiermaier Fan Club, Jim Bradley.
Well, good afternoon once again. This time I'll say thank you very much for the mercifully brief introduction that I had on this particular occasion, and it was accurate because I am a fan of Kevin Kiermaier now that he plays for the Blue Jays, and not against the Blue Jays, robbing them of home runs as he did last night against Detroit. So I should say now how happy most of us are, not all, but most of us are, that the Blue Jays have had a wonderful start at the renovated stadium, and we hope that in the fall they'll be in the Fall Classic, which of course is the World Series. Now I want to say first of all, they were having a hard time getting a crowd here today. So the GNCC said he's going to make an historic announcement. And then the tickets started to sell, so you must know that historic is in the mind of the person who is determining what it is. And what I may think is historic and what the GNCC may think is historic may be quite different. But I am absolutely delighted to be here with you this afternoon for what is now my 5th State of the Region address as Regional Chair. And I'm pleased that, as Noah Buckley has mentioned, that it's in person as opposed to on a tape that you have to watch at home or somewhere else. I want to start, by the way, by thanking the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce, as well as the sponsors at Penn Financial Credit Union for once again partnering to put on this event. I also want to acknowledge the elected officials who are with us today. And while all of you are deserving of recognition, the format of today's event will not allow me to rename or name you individually. So before I get everybody to stand up, there were 2 people who, because it's very difficult, Mishka would know, trying to figure out who's actually here. And we spotted 2 other people who are here. Mayor Ganan of West Lincoln gets special mention. And Tony Baldinelli, I saw Tony here today. We've already had Chris Biddle introduced, so Tony, take a bow. Now I'm going to ask all elected officials who are here today from any order of government to stand up and receive the kind of recognition that the audience deems appropriate. Now, finally, I also want to thank those of you joining us in the room today, and it is a full house today. The State of the Region is among the most important addresses that I give in any year, and it's a rare privilege to have this opportunity to communicate directly with so many chamber members as well as community leaders from right across Niagara. Make no mistake, without your leadership, innovation, and tenacity, our community would not be as strong as it is today. For this State of the Region, I want to paint a picture of the region being at a crossroads, a time of great opportunity, but not without its share of risks and challenges. A time where the decisions that we collectively make today will have a lasting legacy indeed for years to come. On one hand, we find ourselves in a growingly complex world where our communities, residents, and businesses are subject to more external pressures than ever before. We are therefore at the mercy of countless geopolitical influences, the whims of senior levels of government, climate change and shifting trends, on everything from social justice to where and how we work. But on the other hand, Niagara has a truly unique opportunity. For the first time in a long while, I see our community coalescing around a small, focused set of issues that we all want to tackle together. When the public, private, and nonprofit sectors can all agree on what the challenges are before us, I see it as an opportunity to make meaningful change for the entire community. I know that the Niagara region cannot realize a vision of an optimal Niagara alone. It is my sincere desire to move forward together with each of our 12 local municipalities, together with our post-secondary institutions and hospital systems, together with our partners at the provincial and federal governments, together with a number of nonprofit organizations across the region, and finally, together with Niagara's business leaders, many of whom are here today in this room. But before we really start to talk about tomorrow, we need to think about where Niagara is today. So I want to address what I see television commercials using this particular statement as well. I want to address the elephant in the room and offer some brief comments on the region's 2023 budget. Yes, Council did approve a necessary but substantial increase, but I want to state something very plainly. There was no new spending in the 2023 regional budget that is being paid for by local taxes, save and except for Council putting 2 new ambulances on the road to ensure our residents can get the care they need. I think we would all agree that this is an investment that we cannot do without. But to tell the full story of the 2023 budget, we have to look at the external forces at play, like global inflation, the loss of development charge revenue through Bill 23, and the lingering costs of COVID-19 on our operations. This budget also had to replenish reserves that were used to offset tax increases during the pandemic. As responsible stewards of the public purse, Council needed to ensure that our reserves remain healthy. We also have to pay for the decisions we make to provide when we provided $55 million for the new hospitals in West and South Niagara. This funding, while not a core responsibility, or indeed a responsibility at all, of the region, will continue to have a measurable impact on our budget for years to come. But it was a decision that was received very well by all of Council, who recognize the reality of having to provide this funding to ensure that we had these new healthcare facilities. I will not gloss over the truth. The next few budgets are likely to continue to be challenging. But as Regional Council Chair, I look forward to working with you to help make the investments we need to grow better together. But the state of the region goes far beyond the budget. Over the last year alone, there have been many remarkable stories of economic growth in our community that are worth sharing with you. Just last Thursday, we got word that Niagara's unemployment rate had dropped to 4%, with us adding 600 new jobs in March. Historically, this is one of the lowest rates we have seen in quite a time, and it shows how we're performing better than the national average. These numbers demonstrate we are certainly on the right path. And I want to say this, because you recognize this, we can all recall when they talked about the national unemployment rate. It seemed to me that Niagara used to be almost consistently in the top 10 right across the country. They would call it St. Catharines, Niagara in that category. And so it was really heartening to see it is now down to 4%, which some economists will tell you is full employment. I recognize as well that it's both a blessing and perhaps not a blessing. One is that the unemployment rate is low, but also it demonstrates how difficult it is for many employers to find new people to work in their employ. And so it's good news, I think, to the largest extent, but it has its challenges to go with it. So more recently, GM announced a significant investment in St. Catharines propulsion plant to build 400,000 drive units for electric vehicles. Not only will this investment support 500 good-paying jobs in our region, it helps stake Niagara's claim in the growing EV manufacturing sector and will ultimately contribute to combating climate change. On the marine side, Heddle Shipyard was recently awarded a $135 million contract from the Canadian Coast Guard to retrofit their vessels. This 3-year project will support over 200 jobs, providing many social and economic benefits for the entire region. In Port Colborne, a $45 million investment will rehabilitate 3 wharfs along the Welland Canal, helping to ensure that Niagara can continue to play a crucial role in maintaining a healthy supply chain while adapting to the impacts of climate change. Niagara was recently selected by Altura Power to be the home of its new large-scale hydrogen production facility. Not only will this sustain high-paying jobs, but it will also provide low-carbon emission energy for our industrial processes. And across the region, we're seeing success story after success story pile up over the last year. In Fort Erie, Abatement Technologies is nearing completion of a new 100,000 square foot state-of-the-art advanced manufacturing facility that will support 100 quality jobs and allow the company to build upon its 75-year history of serving international markets from its headquarters in Niagara. And there are several businesses in Niagara, I'm pleased to say, that serve not only the Niagara region, the province, and the country, but to have international customers as well. In West Lincoln, Stanpack recently received a $5 million contract from the federal government to produce new compostable and recyclable packaging. This will create 30 new good-paying jobs while continuing to combat climate change. In Grimsby, Handling Specialty is building underwater stage lifts that are being used everywhere from world-class Cirque du Soleil shows to the Royal Caribbean cruise ships. Really remarkable. In Niagara Falls, just up the street from where we are today, the OLG stage at Fallsview Casino recently opened with a sold-out show featuring Billy Joel. The lineup of stellar entertainment being booked into this facility will no doubt help keep the region on the map and will satisfy those who are visiting the region to see wonderful entertainment. Across the region, we continue to see a thriving agricultural sector, providing jobs and contributing to the food security in our province. While it's not always top of mind, Niagara's flourishing agricultural business contributes more than that's $1.7 billion to our local economy and employs more than 25,000 individuals. I can assure you, as long as I am regional chair, I'll be an active supporter of the farmers across the region and the farming that they're doing, keeping in mind that this local source provides us with safe and secure food, and we need both a safe supply and a secure supply. We're blessed with appropriate and we are blessed with soil conditions and climatic conditions that allow us to do this, but most of all, with farmers who are expert in the field. We should also take a moment to reflect on the successful completion of the Canada Summer Games that were hosted across the region last August. The Games will leave a lasting positive legacy across our communities, both by the facilities they inspired as well as the economic benefits. We owe a debt of gratitude to the thousands of volunteers who made these games possible, as we could not have done it without you and without your leadership. And finally, the new South Niagara Hospital project recently announced a $3.6 billion contract for its construction. Clocking in at over 1.3 million square feet, the construction of this facility is certain to have a positive economic impact on our region and obviously a great impact on the healthcare in our region. This is a small sample of all that we have to celebrate in Niagara. I know I join with you in being enthusiastic for the future. These announcements and dozens of others are perfect examples of how we are continuing to grow better together, and I emphasize the word together. When looking to the future, I want to start by looking back just 1 year. Last year, I stood before you at the State of the Region and made a series of commitments of what my priorities would be, what would be set in motion should I have the privilege to serve as chair of the Niagara region. Today, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to share that progress and that kind of progress that has been made in just a few short months on these top priorities. I want to start with what is likely the most top of mind issue: affordable and attainable housing. We would all agree that far too many hardworking people in Niagara cannot find appropriate housing. Too many of our residents have been pushed out of the market. Even the province of Ontario, through legislation like Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act, has demonstrated that making progress on these housing challenges is a top priority, and indeed it is for the province as well as for the region. Here in Niagara, we are ready to respond. We will not continue doing what we have done in the past decade in the hopes that we will achieve different results. To that end, I'm pleased to publicly announce that Regional Council, working closely with the Chief Administrative Officer, has approved the creation of an Office of Attainable Housing. This new office will be charged with working with partners at all levels, as well as the private and nonprofit sectors, to help address the attainable and affordable housing challenges in Niagara. We have heard loud and clear from the province that they expect more homes to be built across Ontario, and we are ready to do our part. This new office will take a multidisciplinary approach to the issue and think innovatively about how we might make a positive impact for the community. We are taking the lessons we learned when pursuing GO Transit service by creating a team that is solely focused on attainable housing. Creating more attainable housing will not be accomplished with an off the side of the desk procedure. This new team will focus all of their attention on getting more of our residents, including our hardworking young people, into housing. It is important to remember that we did not get into this housing situation overnight, and making progress certainly will take time. However, we are confident that this new model is a positive first step, and we look forward to providing the community with updates along the way. As Regional Chair, I hear from constituents, businesses, and my colleagues on Council that there's a shared desire to be more efficient and find a made-in-Niagara solution that will optimize the region. These comments were so prevalent that a year ago I made a commitment to focus on more effectively sharing services between the region and Niagara's local communities. I pledge to find ways to improve our region and be as efficient as possible. Given the unprecedented interest to expeditiously move forward with shared services, I'm pleased to announce today the Regional Council has endorsed the creation of an Office of Shared Services. For the first time in the region's 53-year history, we are putting dedicated resources behind an initiative that is solely focused on finding ways to make local government in Niagara more efficient, lean, and effective. Again, similar to our efforts on GO, we do not see making progress on shared services as a part-time job. This council recognizes that if we want to make a measurable difference on shared services, we need to fund positions entirely focused on building relationships, identifying opportunities, and handling logistics. The offices of attainable housing and shared services will be coming online in the coming weeks when we manage through the new division of strategic transformation. I know you'll join me in looking forward to seeing progress made on these priorities. As an important aside, I want to recognize the leadership of Chief Administrative Officer Ron Tripp in delivering on an organizational plan that is responsive to Council's and the community's priorities. Equally as important, I want to acknowledge that these two new initiatives are being resourced without additions to our regional staff complement. I know some people like to hear that. There is no new funding being dedicated to these two new offices as they're being resourced from within the current budget. However, a local focus on attainable housing and better sharing of resources alone will not result in the outcomes we're looking for. We know that we must have willing partners in Toronto and Ottawa to make Niagara the best it can be, and I'm confident we will have those partners. Take yesterday's positive announcement from the provincial government. As the service manager for homelessness services, the Niagara region relies on provincial funding to deliver services to our most vulnerable residents. Given this relationship with the province, I am pleased to reiterate the announcement that our funding for homelessness programs has received, get this, an 86% increase, now totaling over $20 million. That's an applause line. This much-needed funding will be put to effective use, shoring up homelessness programs across the region and supporting those who are in need mostly. For many years, the historical funding model meant that we were underfunded as compared with other places in the province. Niagara residents invested more into homelessness services on the local tax base than any other community in Ontario. The discrepancy in funding was so egregious that Niagara was even mentioned by name in a report from the Auditor General as an area of concern and correction. For years, regional councillors and our talented staff have been tenaciously advocating for a correction. We have taken every opportunity to reinforce the need for these funds in Niagara and proving that we can get results even within our limited funding. I want to express my sincere thanks to our staff for the years of dedicated work on this file and ensuring Niagara's story was being shared whenever and wherever someone would listen. Your efforts have paid off, and our community is better off because of it. Success stories like the one we see here are evidence that we must never accept the status quo. We must continue to have productive dialogue and advocate with the decision makers in Toronto and Ottawa. To that end, I'm pleased to make one final announcement today. The Niagara region, in partnership with the local municipalities and our friends at the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce, will be reviving the highly successful Niagara Week event at Queen's Park the week of May 15th. It didn't say pause for applause, but I'm glad you did. During our time in Toronto, our advocacy efforts will include funding for the new wastewater treatment plant in South Niagara Falls, which is over $300 million, by the way, to build, renewal of funding for shared service transition costs, and seeking support from the provincial government to make us whole after development charge revenues disappeared through Bill 23. We look forward to bringing Niagara's concerns forward, and having key representation from the GNCC in attendance helps to demonstrate our partnership and our commitment to build a better Niagara together. And again, I underline the word together. I want all of you to know that we will continue to work hard with our provincial and federal partners to make sure we have a seat at the table and ensure that we're getting our fair share. Before I close today, I know there's some discussion among Chamber members regarding the provincial facilitator. Well, we are patiently awaiting news from the provincial government regarding the scope of this facilitator's work, the Niagara region has been reorienting itself to be open-minded and responsive to the will of the provincial government. Let me share some of my thoughts on this process. I believe that each community in Niagara is unique and brings something special to the table. That each town, township, and city contributes to our special culture, and that our mosaic of urban and rural communities helps set us apart from other parts of Ontario. But I also believe that the best version of Niagara is one where all of our communities and the region work in harmony to optimize what we have. I believe that in order for us to build more homes, we must first build a precise and shared definition of the problem we're trying to solve. And to truly realize all we can, we must share what we have already and find those opportunities and efficiencies. We've come a long way. We've learned many lessons that will help us collaborate, coordinate, and grow a better Niagara together. I believe the time is now for all of us to work together and make the bold decisions necessary to realize the best version of Niagara possible. As Regional Chair, I'm honored to once again be part of a team of such a dynamic, hardworking, and passionate group of councillors who have their community's best interests at heart. And I hope you will give a round of applause to our councillors at this time. I've come to learn that regardless of where two councillors may sit on the political spectrum, their shared convictions and interests far outweigh the differences that set them apart. This term of council is also a privilege to have strong representation on organizations such as the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Rob Foster, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Councillor Houston from Pelham. It is through this representation that Niagara has made strides on innovative and important issues like the expansion of broadband internet, green energy, and climate change, and increasing women's representation in local government. Along with my colleagues on council, I'm also honored to work with some of the most talented and hardworking public servants in my entire career. I would be remiss not to mention the region's Chief Administrative Officer, Ron Tripp, and the entire leadership team who worked tirelessly to turn council's direction into reality. Without such capable leadership, nothing would get accomplished, and we are lucky to have such a capable group in Niagara. This also says nothing of the thousands of exceptional staff that work in each of the operational departments. The region provides so many crucial programs and services that residents and businesses rely on daily, and I couldn't possibly mention all of them here today. But on behalf of Regional Council, I want to extend my most sincere thanks to each of you for your dedication and your experience. I started my remarks today by speaking of how we must all work together if we're going to build and grow Niagara into the best version of itself. Now, more than ever, I believe this is a time to strike new partnerships and bolster existing relationships. It's time for us to not only celebrate our successes, but also to learn the important lessons from the times where we may have faltered. It's time to reimagine what our community could be and how we might share our resources to get there. It's time for all of us to respond to our challenges together and make the investments needed to see progress on our priorities. And finally, I believe now is the time to seize the opportunity that we have before us to make dramatic change that will transform our community for generations. It's time for us to be courageous in our decisions so that we may build on an elevated Niagara that will be the envy of the entire province and country. I look forward to the future and how we will grow better together. Thank you. This is Niagara. I see wine.
Well, I just, on behalf of all of us in the room and on behalf of Niagara College, I am pleased to, first of all, just say thank you, Jim, for your leadership and for delivering today's State of the Region address. And as a token of our appreciation for your ongoing, remarkable commitment to having Niagara grow better together, we're pleased to give you a bottle of our Balance, Niagara College Balance Cabernet Franc wine, produced by our students, of course, on our campus, at our campus winery.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In Niagara, it's always a pleasure to get a bottle of wine. We have now, and I think President Kennedy will agree with me, we have now in Niagara and in Ontario, let's broaden it to Ontario, but certainly in Niagara, the finest wine available in the world by the finest farmers and winemakers in the world, and they all deserve a round of applause. Thank you.
Well, again, a huge thank you, Chair Bradley, for your inspiring remarks. Like many in our region, Niagara College knows how much our community has benefited from Jim's leadership and contributions as a provincial and municipal representative and leader. We're very pleased to support and sponsor this important and highly regarded annual event. And I would like to take a moment to also thank the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce and their CEO, Mishka Balsam, for their leadership in continuing to build Niagara and find different ways of bringing different sectors and different organizations across our great region together. I'd also like to thank Mishka for taking the time out of her busy schedule to chair the Niagara College Board of Governors. I'm forever grateful for her time, leadership, and advice. Thank you, Mishka. You know, Chair Bradley's remarks and the theme of growing better together does make me think of the proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And, you know, I look back in the last couple of years at a couple of remarkable achievements that I think showed Niagara at its finest, how far we can go when we go together. The first is regional transit. That was a long time dream come true for so many of us, and something that is of such great importance to so many Niagarans, whether they be seniors, students, workers needing to get to jobs, visitors to our region. That is a great example of how far we can go when we work together. The other is last summer's Canada Summer Games, another outstanding example of what we can do as a region when we work together. So certainly Niagara College deeply values partnerships, and we look forward to playing our part in enabling Niagara to go further together. We value partnerships across different sectors with the private and public sector, and through our applied research, working with small and medium-sized enterprises to advance productivity across Niagara and to work with SMEs on new product development. I am very proud of the fact that we make such a difference in the economic life of Niagara with supporting so many different companies, so many different organizations. And through our applied research work, very pleased to be standing here today, knowing that we are the #1 ranked research college in Ontario and #2 in all of Canada. So it's certainly something that, something that I'm so proud of the work we're doing, but I think also just exemplifies our commitment to partnerships. I will, before I introduce Tim, I would just close by another example of partnerships related to Jim Bradley's, Chair Bradley's address today, related to housing. Clearly, the need to build more housing is critical to all of us, and congratulations, Chair Bradley, and to the region for the new Office of Attainable Housing. And we at Niagara College know how important it is to try and close the skills gap in the construction industry. And so we are committed to continuing to find ways of growing those programs and finding partnerships to enable us to do more together. And a great example of that is last year, in partnership with the Niagara Home Builders Association, we leveraged provincial funding for a construction skills program that offered at no cost to students hands-on instruction, followed by an 8-week paid placement. And 80 students trained in roofing and drywall installation. They graduated in March, and the province has granted an additional $1.2 million in funding for a second iteration of this program that will train framers and carpentry professionals to help address the need for more than the 10,000 skilled workers that are needed to support residential construction over the next decade. But I think it's a great example, and our thanks to the Niagara Home Builders Association for their great work in this space, and it's a great example of how partnerships enable Niagara College and enable all of us to go further together. So finally, thank you. A huge thank you once again, and Chair Bradley, and to all members of our Regional Council for continuing to find ways to work together, because by doing so, we all benefit, and Niagara truly starts to fulfill its remarkable potential. In closing, it's my pleasure to introduce Tim Dennis. He doesn't really need an introduction. The voice of Niagara on CKTV radio, a native Niagaran, and I should note, someone who started his broadcasting career and the training, through training at Niagara College in our broadcast program. We were pleased to have Tim address some of our graduates a few years ago at our convocation ceremony. He brings over 35 years of experience in the entertainment field as a talk show host, singer, actor, director, and songwriter. I'm going to just introduce you in the future, Tim, as Renaissance man. It's my pleasure to introduce you as our moderator for today's fireside chat. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It is so nice to be back in person. Last time, Jim, you and I did this, we were at a much smaller venue. We were at Balls Falls, gorgeous venue, but this year we thought, let's make it bigger. We'll increase the size of the falls. We'll come to this wonderful place, thank you, Noel, and have a chat, and it's so nice to see so many people here. Actually, the last time that I did an event here, I was introducing the team at Whose Line Is It Anyway? So a lot of you know that that's improv comedy. So I thought that today we would try to do something along those lines, Jim. We're going to have someone yell out the name of a local politician, and each one of these questions you have to do in the style of that politician. So no pressure, but thank you for being here today. We're going to start things off with a very, very simple question. I took a lot of notes during your speech, and I'm going to start off, Jim, by getting you to define in your terms what the heck the word historic means.
Historic is in the definition of the GNCC, whatever I was going to say today.
Yeah.
And you could interpret it as historic or not. Your choice.
Yep. They're gonna fix my microphone while we're doing this, but that's okay. It's funny because the word historic, everybody thought was going to be this hugely important, devastating announcement. So my question about amalgamation is no good. So we're not talking about amalgamating the Niagara
I know
region?
you never talk about it, Tim.
No. All right. Let's talk about some things that are very serious. You mentioned during your speech the announcement yesterday with regard to housing and the money involved from the provincial government regarding housing. Now, there were a lot of key announcements in the speech, and the creation of an Office of Attainable Housing was one of them, Jim. What is the region's role in this going to be to meet the province's targets? What is the region's goal here?
We have a significant role to play, but first of all, Tim, may I look at the word attainable? We deliberately use the word attainable because attainable includes affordable housing as well. But for affordable housing, we usually think of people who do not have the personal resources to get into a home, often people moving from homelessness into homes. We talk about attainable housing, it's for virtually everybody in our society. So the region has a role to play. First of all, we, by creating this office, there's a concentration of all departments of the region in dealing with this particular challenge that we have before us. But we have to ensure that we are expeditious without being irresponsible in terms of the approvals that we provide to those who wish to construct housing units in Niagara. And you will hear from time to time, and sometimes with justification, that projects have been delayed by people having to go through government and getting the approvals. That's not only at the local level, by the way, that's provincial level as well, and the odd time federal level as well. But our role is to ensure that it's as expeditious as possible. We have to create in Niagara, we have to be ready for really 100,000 new housing units by 2050. And most people say 2050, that's a long time away. And I'll probably be out of politics by then, believe it or not. 2050.
Do you know how many times you've said that during the time that we have talked, Jim?
But yeah, I know that. And 2050 is not that far away. It's 28 years away. And so we have to make it as easy as possible to construct those homes. We developed an official plan, for instance, which designates areas in Niagara specifically for housing. There are some people who objected to the allowing a building on certain lands in Niagara.
Because we're talking about an issue, attainable is a very important question here, and I think Jim was trying to make a point about attainable. And there are a lot of developments happening right across the Niagara region right now.
We are blessed in Niagara with some top-notch builders who will construct what is needed. When we look at the, we have to ensure that it's not as it has in the past. In the past, most housing was single-family housing with a 60-foot or 50-foot frontage. When I was in city council back in the 1970s, that's all people wanted to tolerate in those days. There's been a recognition, a change in thinking today to make it make it affordable, first of all, and second, to use the land appropriately. We'll take different models. When you first started out with town housing, for instance, there are a lot of people who turned their nose up at town housing and said, well, that's not for us, it's not good in our neighborhood. We must have townhouses, semi-detached, duplexes, granny flats, for instance, rental housing, condominium housing, and our role is to ensure that they are approved in an expeditious fashion. Good piece of news, by the way, Tim, is that in Niagara, there are now 25,000 approved units that are not being proceeded with at this time. They've already received approval. But think of why that would be. Since they perhaps had their approval to begin with, interest rates were much lower. So people could afford to borrow that money, and those doing the building could afford to borrow that money at those interest rates. Second, there were more people available in terms of the skilled trades that are not available today. Niagara College is doing its part in partnership with the provincial government to ensure we have the people in those trades. But our folks in the building industry tell us it's a challenge getting the necessary skilled trades. Also the supply chain. We can't always get the products we need to put into those houses in a timely fashion. But the good news is they've been approved, and I think the province is going to be happy with that as well. So we are positive about it. We also have to resist NIMBYism, which is not in my backyard syndrome that we have out there. And I must say regional councillors have done a good job with that. They have resisted NIMBYism, where people say, well, we don't want that kind of housing because it's not like ours, or probably in the back of the mind, we don't want those people in our neighborhood. We've gotten past that, I think, now as a society, and that's reflected in the people who are in elected office now. So we are there to absolutely resist that, because we're going to need different kinds of components of housing to meet the needs of the people in the future.
Kind of dovetailing into that, a few weeks ago, the region and a number of the individual municipalities here in the region designated homelessness, opioid addiction, mental health an emergency situation and declared it an emergency. And you and I chatted on the air the next day about what that meant, other than was it just words out into the ether. But like a lot of places in Ontario, like a lot of places in Canada, the struggle with those things is a very real one. What can the region do? What is the region doing? Concrete things to address the situation the way that it is. And I suppose as part of that question, was yesterday's announcement in response to that?
Yesterday's announcement would play a significant role in that, particularly dealing with homelessness out there. There are people who simply do not have a home. You see them on the street. Sometimes they'll set up tent cities, for instance. And by the way, Tim, I talked to someone who had been in Los Angeles this past month and said, you wouldn't believe on the streets of Los Angeles what you're seeing. It's a worldwide problem out there. Talk to anybody from any country. Nobody has yet found the silver bullet, but everybody is striving to find it. We have some initiatives in Niagara that will be helpful. We always consider it to be a very important challenge we had to deal with. So the declaration of the emergency really said to perhaps senior levels of government, we in Niagara, as well as other areas of the province, see this as an important area where funding is necessary and dedication of staff is necessary. Here in Niagara, we have something that is quite unique to Niagara and is now going to be copied. I know a couple of ministers from the provincial government have been down and impressed with it. And it's in Niagara Falls. And it's housing which is not on a permanent basis. It's transitional housing that's taking place. And the city of Niagara Falls was kind enough to donate its old library for that building. These are folks who are perhaps coming out of hospital, would have no place to go coming out of hospital with some significant problems, medically speaking. These are other folks very hard to serve. But it's not a permanent place. It's not a shelter, an overnight shelter. It's a place where people can transition to a new way of living. For instance, there are life skills that are taught there, imparted on the people there. There's 24-hour staff available to them. There are individual units within that building that people can enjoy as a little home of their own. It's not, and a shelter sometimes there are several beds set up in a gymnasium, for instance. So this kind of housing is going to be exceedingly important in the future. This is a pilot project. I would project that it's going to be in several communities in Niagara. And watch very carefully. You're going to see it across Ontario, and others may look at what we have done and say, that's exactly what we should be doing, transitioning these people so that when the accommodation does become available, and it will through Niagara Housing in some cases, but the private sector providing housing as well out there with the assistance of government in many cases. There sometimes have to be incentives, financial incentives provided for affordable housing in that particular case. Yeah. Our staff as well are there to talk, and it sounds perhaps trite to say it, but actually speak to the people who are confronted with homelessness and determine why it was. There are some famous people, Tim, and I think I'm correct in this, and you would be aware of it, who at one time in their life were homeless and now have gotten back on track as a result of intervention by whether it's government or nonprofit agencies or just friends. And I think one of them is the owner of the Second Cup chain of coffee places, who, when he gives a speech, will say he was once homeless because of perhaps alcohol or drug addiction or something of that nature. Somebody intervened, and that's important. That's a role that we have to play with our staff to intervene. They go out to many of these places and keep track of the people and try to find places for them. on a short-term basis and ultimately on a long-term basis. Because the solution to homelessness is housing. And the more we can provide for them, often with supports there, because some of the people who are homeless have other challenges to meet as well. Some of the mental health challenges, some addiction challenges. So where there's supports from regional staff or other staff from nonprofit agencies, that's where we have to intervene. And we're not afraid to look at other jurisdictions as well to see who's been successful, as we have been with our bridge housing.
So yesterday, the announcement of the extra funding, which was significant, and then today, the news that you were making a historic announcement. I thought perhaps the historic part of it was the only known photo of Wayne Gates and Sam Oosterhoff smiling at exactly the same time. But regardless of that, are you getting enough support from the province on this?
We are now with that funding. I think we are now. There are other areas where we'd like additional support. Every community would like additional support from senior levels of government. And we will continue to ask where we think the need is there. What's essential for us is to make the case. You can't simply put out your hand and say, we want more money. You have to say, this is specifically how we want it. The province is right to say to us, and they have required this, the funding that comes out, we want to see a plan, and our plan will be approved by council in May of this year. An actual plan that your staff has developed on specifically how these funds will be designated. Part of it will be for capital, that is building, part of it will be for operational. But they will want to see that. And just as the federal government will say to the provincial government, if we're going to provide healthcare funding to you, we want to see specifically where it's going. The provincial government has every right to say to municipalities, you're not just getting a blank check, we want to see that it's going to be invested where it's going to make a genuine difference. And we can be helpful as well to the rest of the province. And I know the Associate Minister of Housing was down, did a tour of the bridge housing in Niagara Falls, very impressed with it. And I know the Provincial Civil Service and the Ministry of Housing is very impressed with it. By the way, you made reference to two people of different political affiliations being in a photograph smiling together. Mm-hmm. That is where Niagara does a great job, because we had Sam Oosterhoff as a government member making a very strong case with his colleagues in government why this funding would be necessary for Niagara. We had members of the opposition who in the legislature and other places advocated for that as well. We had our staff at the region providing the evidence, our regional council, our local councils. So that's where Niagara together, when we work together, can have a profound impact. When they get elected, they're there to work together for all of us. Yes, they may have ideological differences, partisan differences, but when there's something that Niagara needs, I find that they come together.
While we're on the subject of government, the Ontario government has announced on numerous occasions their plan to look into two-tiered government.
Yes.
Right? And we're here talking about one tier of government. Yeah. And the relationship to a number of municipalities who are represented here today. Now, how do you feel that this is going to play, Jim? I know that calls for a lot of speculation, but you sit as the chair of one tier of government. There are mayors here. How do you feel this is going to play out?
Well, there are different ways of interpreting it. As I have seen it, so far the evidence I've seen, the province is interested in getting housing units built. And they're really looking at where there's two-tier municipalities, and there are a number around the province, a region and local governments. They're looking at how can we best get these houses built as quickly as possible and meet the goals that they have, because they have very ambitious goals for housing right across the province. And I think they want to look at which of the two, for instance, should be preeminent. They appear to have given more jurisdiction to the local entities in terms of planning. But the local entities may well require that some of them do not have the planning staff themselves. This is where working together comes in. Yeah. I think they're looking for that. The region has a planning staff that local municipalities could, I'll use the word hire, for a very reasonable rate. So they don't have to go out and get their own, or they don't have to go out into the private consulting field. They have expert staff at the region that could work for the local municipalities. So I think that's what they're looking for. They're also looking for us to determine where we could have more shared services. We already have some examples of shared services between municipalities. We can do more of that, and I think the province would like to see that. Give you a quick example would be the back office services. IT, for instance. Would a small municipality have a sophisticated IT operation? Not likely. The region could provide that for them. You think of human resources, you think of legal, you think of even in some cases financial. The region can provide that service to that local municipality. I think they're looking for those kinds of movements towards more coordinated efforts. Maybe eventually they might look at something more profound, such as water and wastewater. Because remember, Tim, at one time, waste management was at the level of local municipalities. It was felt it could be done better at the regional level, so it's being taken over by the region. Regional transit, same thing. And there may be things the region does, as the province is looking at planning, where they say, we think the local municipality could do better. So I think that's what they're looking at when the facilitator comes in, to look at how that goal can be achieved. And that's an enviable goal on the part of the province.
Now, I know there are a couple of people that came to us with some questions that they would like asked, and I know they're out there in the audience. And I'd like to call first on Tyler Sneur, who's a member of Next Niagara, which is council of the GNCC that represents, engages, and amplifies the voices of those in the Niagara region in the under 40 community. And Tyler, right down here, you've got a question for Chair Bradley.
Hi, Chair. Thank you for being here. My question is, how is climate change affecting Niagara? What can the government do to better protect infrastructure or our agricultural industry, for instance, against climate change?
A very good question, very timely question, I might add. Climate change is going to have a profound effect on all of us. I think even the early doubters today have seen the changes. Engineers here, for instance, will remember when we talked about a 50-year storm. Now, there's one which would normally come every 50 years. That storm's showing up in 20 years now. A 20-year storm is showing up in 5 years. So we're seeing the impacts of climate change now in radical changes in weather conditions. So as a region, as a municipality, we have to be prepared to accommodate those changes, to adapt to them, first of all, because I'll take the adaptation first, and then I'll go to how we can help prevent it.
Just before you get to that, we have the political version of a pitch clock, by the way.
Okay,
So just,
okay. I thought I could rag the puck here, but anyway, let me think of just the size of a wastewater or sewage treatment plant. When you had, because some water gets into it that doesn't come from sanitary sewers, it comes from storms that we have, makes its way in, and causes big problems, have to bypass, and raw sewage can go into the waterway. We may have to actually make pipes larger than we did before. When we're paving now, there are new ways of doing paving. We thought, well, it wasn't old-fashioned to have stone there, and now we must have a smooth pavement. Sorry to those who are in the paving business, but there are other ways of doing it so the water percolates down through and doesn't cause as great a problem. We have to ensure that we do not build on floodplains, for instance. That's important, and I know that can be controversial because some people like being next to water. So we have to change our buildings to adapt to the change. But also changing our building gets to the point of how we can not contribute to global warming by making our buildings more efficient. Our fleet of
I'm going to hold you there, Jim, because I want to get to our next question, because we're going to run real short, and I want this person to be able to get their question out because they've been waiting. Janet Madame, who's the Executive Director, the Welland Heritage Council and Multicultural Center, nonprofit charitable service organization helping immigrants to overcome barriers in integration and develop skills to work and live in Canada. Where is Janet? Right there.
Right there.
Right here. So good afternoon, everybody. My question is, with the recent increase of newcomers arriving in Niagara, our concern is we are going to start seeing a further rise in hate crimes. Mr. Chair, I know you've made several statements denouncing these crimes. So is there anything the region and the citizens in this room that they can do to combat this issue? Thank you.
We are, by the way, happy to have as many immigrants as possible coming to the region. If you had asked people 10 years ago, would you like to see immigration increase by a substantial amount? A lot of existing people here, even some who have been immigrants themselves, would say, no, let's close the door now because I'm here and I've got what I want. We now need immigrants. Everybody sees that. Even, as I say, some before who had their hand up saying no are now saying, please bring more immigrants in. We need people to fill the employment positions out there that are needed. I see it, for instance, in the medical field. For years, there were barriers put up that made it almost impossible for someone trained in another country to come here to be able to practice, whether it was a doctor or a nurse or another person in the medical field. And so many of them ended up, this is the old stereotypical driving a taxi or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that job, but they were much more qualified in a different field. So one of the first things we advocate for is taking a very close look at who we admit and how we admit them, because it's clear that many other countries in the world have training and education systems for medical students that are equal to ours. And the faster we can get them here, the better. Now, that's selfish, Jim, to a certain extent, because we're taking them from another country. But people are coming here, we want them to feel welcome. And they'll feel welcome because they're going to be needed in all aspects of jobs out there. We're going to need people. The demographic of the Niagara region, you will know, and even the last half dozen years has changed substantially as our immigration patterns have changed from all European before to other places in the world. In the region, we also want people to feel included. We want them to be respected. Whenever there's an attack on anybody for religious purposes or racial purposes or ethnic purposes, our role as elected representatives is to put up our hand and say, that's not acceptable here. And I would bet that everybody in this room who's here today would say the same thing. We have to call it out. We've seen a couple of examples in Markham where a couple of mosques, the people have been attacked and somebody's driving vehicles at them. Never acceptable, and we have to do that. We also know that our police service must be trained to deal with hate crimes and must also take into consideration different cultures when dealing with people who are encountering the police. I think there's much we can do, funding local organizations that transition immigrants to mainstream Niagara, mainstream Ontario, mainstream Canada is essential. We want them to feel, they're equitable, they're inclusive, certainly, and
Jim, we're wanted. We're going to have to roll for a moment here, but thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Janet, for your questions. And thank you. I came in with at least 15 or 20 questions to ask the chair. You see the challenge that I have when I have Jim on my radio program in the morning. I've only got 4 hours, and there are other people we have to. Jim, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much to both Tim and Chair Bradley. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Shelley, and I have the absolute honor of serving Grimsby's business community as the Executive Director of the Grimsby and District Chamber of Commerce. I thank you all for being here today. I kind of like to bookend the event a little bit by saying we are also in favor of more housing in Grimsby and in Niagara as a whole, and we welcome Chair Bradley's announcement. A quick congratulations again to the recipients of the Impact Awards. It's truly inspiring to see the leadership that's coming from Niagara's communities, citizens, and businesses. Thank you to Chair Bradley for taking the time to engage with us here today. There was one word that Chair Bradley used throughout his comments: together. I would like to echo and reinforce his words about together. Together we grow, we adapt, we build better, together we create change. I would also like to echo Mishka's comments about the connections and conversations that were happening here today. Truly incredible. And also that leads me into a huge and heartfelt thanks to Mishka and the entire team at the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce for their generous partnership in making this event available to business organizations across Niagara. It's a really fantastic opportunity to collaborate with our peers and business organizations across the region, and an incredible example of the power of together here in Niagara. I'd like to recognize our event partners today. So obviously the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce, the Grimsby and District Chamber of Commerce, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, Niagara Construction Association, Niagara Home Builders Association, Niagara Industrial Association, and the Niagara-on-the-Lake Chamber of Commerce. So real powerhouses of business organizations here in Niagara. And a huge and heartfelt thanks to our generous sponsors who made it possible to bring an event of this magnitude to life: Penn Financial Credit Union, Electra, Ridley College, Cron, Niagara College, YMCA of Niagara, Soundbox Productions, Walker Industries, Niagara Falls Convention Center, BCM Insurance Company, News Talk 610 CKTB, 105.7 Move, Cogeco Your TV, and Symmetric. Thank you to the sponsors for. And sincere thanks to everyone involved in making the 2023 State of the Region happen. And again, thank you to all of the attendees for being here, being part of the conversations, and taking the insights you've gleaned back to your own organizations. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine.